Hello, everybody. Welcome back to what is a very special episode, I think, of TPL. And if you haven't noticed, we're all bringing our favorite libations to the table today because I really even want to call this a symposium on the creator trader, even though admittedly I did not bring wine to the party today. Chris and I were just chatting offline about how it's a fasting day for me. But I did bring my favorite San Pellegrino to our party today. And this really is just, I think, going to be more of a casual conversation, picking up some of the threads that we started last time. We introduced this really revolutionary concept of the creator trader. And because of its importance just to our lives and to our project, we definitely wanted to have a second episode exploring applications and nuances of this idea, specifically to connect it to philosophical liberalism and the Article 1 that we are in right now, Human Nature at Our Best, to really answer why Creator Trader matters for human nature at our best, and then just to go down some more of these rabbit holes and really just riff on this concept and enjoy some drinks along the way. So pick up your favorite beverage, and I'm going to pass it over to Chris, and you can get us started with some thoughts
That's right.
about Creator Trader.
That's right. Thanks, Joya. Sit back, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the discussion. I'll drink for the both of us. I've got my glass of rosé here. Um,
Rosé all day. Rosé was
Rose
actually going to be my drink of choice if I brought
Rosé
wine.
all day. Yeah, I am mostly a white and rosé kind of guy. Red just puts me to sleep, and it just feels very heavy, especially during summertime, and especially down here in hot, steamy Miami, Florida. So rosé is and rosé, like you said, you can drink it all day. So
Nice.
um, as you rightly know, and we felt we've earned it. Everyone's earned it. It's time to kick back every now and then and have some fun too. And we certainly get so much joy out of this concept and just how it fuels and inspires us for the better way forward, and gives so much meaning to philosophical liberalism. So we'll just dive into that, and I think a good place to where I wanted to pick it back up on, is we did such an in-depth discussion of just what the creator trader is in our last discussion. As you, Joy, rightly noted, now we want to connect it back to philosophical liberalism, our project at 1776 Forward. And I think answer the question of why is this human nature at our best? Like that is the Article 1 that we're in and diving into exploring right now. It's how we opened our statement. And we touched upon it a little bit, but I guess it bears just repeating and kind of wrapping up in summary. Um, I would argue it represents human nature at our best, number one, because it speaks to what I believe is our greatest inherent power, our creative power to take nature and shape it in the image of our highest values, to make our dreams come true, literally, through transforming nature, combining elements, that exist and making something new that didn't previously exist. All of that. That's how not only we survive, but thrive, and can do it on a level no other being can. Um, and therefore, that to me is also what makes us most fully human. And certainly all the other uniquely human capacities that go into creating on the level that we human beings do, our reasoning capacity, our choice and volition. And that's certainly encapsulated definitely in the trader side of this equation as an ideal as well. Um, our conscience and consciousness of being with other people, and the respect and empathy that entering into a voluntary, mutually advantageous relationship with other human beings entails, all of that. And so the creator trader, to me, it not only gives name to this great inherent power and potential within us, but it really gives license and permission for us to use it as such. Like we said last time, it's really a celebration of human nature and that our creative capacity and our changing nature is nature, and that that's a good thing rather than something that we should feel shameful or guilty about. And then it's also, I think, human nature at our best because, as the rest of this article even delves into, and we touched upon two sessions ago, it fuses kind of these different complex capacities and polarities of identity that we as human beings inherently entail, and for most humans and most philosophies out there in history have kind of seen as being at war with each other. And so the creator trader is our attempt to fuse the both, to find the both and fusion or synthesis of, our individual and our social nature, our rational and emotional, our mental and our physical, all of these things. So for all of those reasons, I would say it's human nature at our best. And at the end result is we get to transcend, as we said, the law of the jungle that all the other species, at least on this planet that we know of, live by, and allow us to live in harmony versus conflict with each other.
It's a beautiful way to cap it off, and I would agree, and I would make the point that I really see creator trader as the apex of what we mean by human nature at our best and the ideal, like, human ideal. And I remember as we were crafting this statement, you were the one who pointed out that we really discuss three ideals throughout our statement. We talk about continuous betterment, growth, development as an ideal. We talk about the Renaissance human ideal, this idea of learning and developing mastery across multiple domains and integrating them. But as far as I'm concerned, the creator trader really is the apex of all of these. It is the what for, what is the point of all the continuous betterment, the learning, the integration across different knowledge domains. We don't believe or subscribe to just knowledge for knowledge sake, for just navel gazing, as you like to point out, that the purpose of thinking and learning and growing and developing is to do something in the world, to be creative in some capacity, and then to share that with others, to exchange whatever value you've created with other people. That this is what makes us human, and it's what makes for a flourishing life, because we can connect this back to some of our themes of freedom, flourishing, and greatness
Our core
that we
values,
haven't
yeah.
touched on yet. That here's just one connection, specifically with the flourishing aspect. That what we know about how human beings flourish is, one, by pursuing what it is that makes you unique, your unique strengths, passions, abilities, and then doing something to contribute to others and the world as a whole. And one way to think about how to do this is as a creator trader.
Yeah, I agree, and I like how you brought in the flourishing part, because for those of you who've been following along, and if you missed this episode, here's a nice plug for going backwards a little bit. When we covered certainly part two of our flourishing uh, mini series, you may recall we both put forth our respective kind of menus of ingredients that value entailed, that ideal entailed of what it means to live a flourishing life. And I put forth what I call my kind of colloquially magnificent seven ingredients. And one of them was the creator trader ideal as the ideal of human life. So again, that ties it in even to our three core values again. Another point I like to think about why this one is important, and certainly tying it to our project in philosophical liberalism, which is aimed at a free society. And as we've talked about, why do we want a free society? It's circular in a way. And just as we've said that freedom itself is both a means and an end, we want a free society not only to live free and to experience, our greatest capacities, but so that we can achieve all the other great human values that certainly at a civilizational level we aspire to: peace, prosperity, progress. To me, all of these things rest upon a foundation of ultimately the creator trader relationship among human beings, that that it's really only when we are creating kind of according to our unique capabilities and bringing the products and output of that effort to the town square, the marketplace, the table with other humans and exchanging it with them, with others, value for value to mutual advantage and win-win-win relationships voluntarily, of course, that really is the only way you kind of generate prosperity and then the innovation and abundance that progress entails, and ultimately the peace and harmony of between other human beings that voluntary, mutually advantageous relationships imply. And so I think it's no accident that we have reached an unprecedented level of all three of those values, peace, prosperity, and progress, in the last 300 years as freedom has expanded and as really, frankly, the creator trader ethos, implicitly at least, because obviously the whole point of these two episodes is how we believe this is a radically new reframing and concept that we need in the culture. But implicitly, that is what certainly what a free society and a capitalist market system are built upon.
Well, as a former academic in English language and literature, I have to say I love the poetry of your statement on peace, prosperity, and progress in the best way that you've really captured the meaning of what I think our aims toward the good society, the great society, even is all about, and doing it in a beautifully alliterative way. And I
Mhm.
also love the way that you connected this with your Magnificent Seven. I guess I could point out that the creator trader also ties in with my elite eight and exploring the different both ands. And one of the reasons that this concept really is the major concept in this article, this section of our statement, where the majority of what we're doing is exploring some of the key both ands, is pointing out that creator trader in itself is one of these both ands, and it subsumes the other major ones we want to talk about.
Mm.
The way that
Mhm.
human beings to thrive have to be both individual and social, that we're beings of both mind and body, of reason and emotion, that we need both kind of order and stability as well as change and progress. And creator trader capitalizes on all of these, that what it takes to be a successful creator trader is precisely to to embody and live the integration of these otherwise seeming polarities.
Mhm. Yeah. And to me, it's in doing that, and frankly, in live this ties even into another plank of my Magnificent Seven vision of a flourishing life, and why I think why I said the creator trader is is core to a flourishing life, work as a central purpose in life.
Mhm.
To me, this is just another way of saying the same thing, in the sense that, you know, the creator trader and being that, that gives you fundamental meaning and purpose to what more could there be, what more certainly incredible opportunity could there be than to use your unique skills and passions and potential to express it in ways by creating something original and new that's of value to you, that expresses your own vision of what the world could be, how you solve problems, your ideas and answers to problems and challenges you encounter and solutions to them, and offering that to the world for the sake of greater progress, prosperity, and peace, and then doing that with other people doing the same and creating still further resources, like we say. I mean, to me, there's no greater endeavor one could be engaged in than that. And certainly it's the one upon which all of human life depends, whether we are consciously aware of it or not anyways. And to me, it just, having this concept kind of helps give us an answer to that kind of immortal query: what is the meaning of life and what is the purpose of life? It's to be a creator and to trade and collaborate with other humans doing the same thing. So I just think also I know this concept gives me a lot of inspiration and purpose for my own life, and I believe and hope that it can for many other people too, especially any who are struggling with this question of what am I supposed to do with my life? And the beauty of it is that it is universal, that you get to fill in each of us the particulars of what that path looks like, what it is we're going to bring to the table or the marketplace, as it were, and trade with others of value for value. But the notion that that's kind of the central aim or opportunity of human life, I think, is really liberating and really inspiring.
And I know we both have a lot to say to connect the concept of the creator trader with entrepreneurship and just entrepreneurialism, even those who embracing the entrepreneurial spirit and mindset, even if you're not creating an actual business. Although we definitely want to advocate for more people creating actual businesses too.
Hmm.
But I think it's important to point out that the creator trader applies not just in a business setting or a marketplace setting, that it's a way of life that we ought to be bringing to our personal lives as well, our families, our communities. It's definitely a way that I think about, for example, creating value for my husband and sharing, exchanging values. The trade doesn't have to be a monetary trade, it could just be any
No.
kind of exchange, mutual exchange of value. So doing that with your romantic partner, or thinking about, how I provide that for my children, to create value for my children and sharing value with my children. And even thinking in terms of just, initiatives that I'm involved within the community that don't necessarily have a monetary aspect to them, but where my focus is always still on how can I create value and share and exchange that value with others so that everyone is winning, that positive sum, a way of approaching human relationships again.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, one I'll just reemphasize here. We, you know, to some extent, as with everything, we're limited by the language we have. So certainly the words creator trader definitely evoke a kind of very materialistic, market-based mode of activity and endeavor. But no, we don't mean just kind of material values here. We mean kind of the full scope of human values, which includes spiritual, emotional, all of these other domains. I mean, I still back to the prior point about work and being physically creative. I mean, we know we need to do that just to survive, to gain the other material goods and services we need to survive. So that is central. It's central just by nature, but it's also central to this grander conception of what it means to be human at your best that we're trying to put forth. Um, I think that's a key point that we always need to keep in mind, that we do want to create in the world, take action to make material values. But to your point, I this ethos extends to all forms of human relationships and all forms of human value. And in fact, I think that's the beauty of it, is when we start to bring this ethos to the non-market, or work-based contexts, you really start to see the benefit of it. Because obviously, we know that conflict is not solely, from economic affairs, and not solely over land and food and shelter and kind of material goods. There are emotional conflicts and relational conflicts and all of these other things. And so, insofar as having a win-win mentality and approach to all human relations can help reduce conflict, it applies equally, I think, across all domains. And so I like to think of the creator trader as really providing us an ideal on three levels. As you said rightly, one on your it's an ideal of how to think about your personal life and approaching all of your relationships, family, friends, lovers and spouses, business associates, even neighbors, even just kind of people in your community, strangers in your community, approaching that as win-win, certainly seeing them as individuals of equal dignity and respect and rights and capability, or at least capacity. that certainly I think is one way in which it helps us with our personal life, but then also, for you as a creator, thinking about an ideal, I think it gives a great ideal for us to remind us we should be all striving to come up with our own original works and creative expressions. That's the individual side, the C in the creator trader, and then bringing it to, and we create, so creating for yourself what you want to see in the world and what expresses your unique powers and potential and capacities, but then bringing it so that you can get it exchanged for value with someone else, the T side of the equation. So, I think it's thinking of even your creative output as being both for yourself but also as something you can trade with others. And then at the societal level, obviously, looking at all of society as built upon voluntary relationships of mutual respect to mutual advantage. I mean, that is ultimately the premise of a free society. So this is just, I think another way of naming this ideal that we are striving for with philosophical liberalism.
I would agree too. And so I think it's fascinating how in entrepreneurial circles we use this phrase value creation to talk about what it is that we do as entrepreneurs. We're creating value, but I think it's very clear how creating value extends beyond just what we do in our businesses to a mode of being, a way of showing up in the world, being someone who makes it a point to think about creating value everywhere you go. And of course, there's levels of thinking about creation, to your point, that bringing about anything that's new into the world that is a value, that's valuable, right? To produce value in some way. But we admire and revere and name as heroes those who are the most creative, the most original, those who really bring something profoundly innovative and transformative to the table, and to recognize and celebrate that, and hopefully to encourage others to do more of that. So we want you to think about creating value in terms of any of the value that you can bring into the world. So for example, if you're creating a cake and you're just following the recipe on the box, you're not necessarily doing something massively original, but even just producing a cake where there had just been a mess of ingredients, you've brought new value into the world. And that is valuable. And when you can, then exchange it with others. And admittedly, maybe if we had called this creator exchanger, it might have been more clear. But
Hmm.
I appreciate the poetry of the creator trader concept, and hopefully, even in naming it this way, we emphasize the spiritual aspect of trade that I think most
Hmm.
people miss out when they think of trade just purely in monetary or material ways. The material ought to always be connected to the spiritual. So, hopefully, even by bringing this language into the culture more, we emphasize that point. If you're thinking about trade in terms of how you exchange or share values with others, it's probably a better way of thinking about the spiritualness that underlies all aspects of trade, or ought to, in my view. But to get back to this point of, you know, the glory of producing value on any level. So like to like a cake, let's say you're following the recipe, it's not highly innovative or creative in that way, but it's still a wonderful thing that you've made
It's a
something
value
new
you brought into
and
the
can
world. Yeah.
bring it with others. But then also to take it to that next level and to encourage in yourself and in others around you, like how can you even be more original? How can you maybe just go beyond what was in the recipe and on the box and give it your own unique spin, up to the level of the masters of pastry who come up with, brand new ways of thinking about
An
how they
entirely new
create
dessert. Yeah.
completely new desserts. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that, and I to go back to your point on trade. You're right. Trade, I think, has again, that's just the point I was making earlier, that both creator and trader have, a kind of very materialistic and a very kind of market oriented or rooted, connotation, and that's fine. I think we're fine with that because our project here, and certainly having discussions like this to elaborate on what we mean by these terms, is precisely for this, that we can take these terms and really develop their full meaning, which is both the material, another both and here, the material and the spiritual part. Because you're right, in the everyday, we all engage in probably dozens, if not in some cases, 100 or more transactions a day. And yeah, most of them are very impersonal, very kind of anonymous. And I mean, ironically, even today with electronic uh, communications and financing, they're very even immaterial to some extent. But it's kind of, you don't think about it. You want to order Uber Eats, and you just pull up your app and hit the button, and it shows up at your door 20 minutes later, right? And but I think if we can step back and just remember what underlies all of that, both on the creative side, all the human effort, all the glorious human effort that went into making all of these goods, developing the tools that deliver it to you, the progress of technology that enables these miracles where you can just sit on your couch, not have to literally lift but a finger to tap a button on your phone, and like every point in that chain is a miracle creatively that someone created. And then obviously you having the abundance that you have to consume those goods, that's what you're trading, is all of your past effort and the money that you've earned from that, with someone else. So I think, there is a spiritual element to that. And I think we lose sight of that in our very admittedly very materialistic culture. Um, and this is another reason why I think this ideal is not only so critical and important and transformative, um, but is the high, like you say, the apex of the ideal, because it brings all of our everyday into the spiritual domain.
Why don't we then now delve more into connecting it with entrepreneurship? I know you
Sure,
had
yeah.
some really pressing thoughts about this since you've been on this recent journey of moving from corporate to entrepreneurship, and it's definitely something. My background, I've thought a lot. I've been an entrepreneur for much longer now, but I'll let you get this one started.
Yeah, I mean, I increasingly think about, I mean, it's certainly in my business where I'm looking to build new and better futures of work. Um, Physical places and spaces. My business being real estate and architecture, um, and creating spaces that people both want to use and that are more valuable and profitable for every party in that chain of value creation that provides them. Um, and I just know personally making that shift from, and I'm still in it, and it's every day is a new day and a totally new experience. But going from the kind of safe corporate, uh, perfectly structured world to now the freedom of the entrepreneur's world, like to me, it's been transformative in my own life. It's really called forth the best, my own nature at my best, if you will. Very challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. And so that's something I want to bring to more people. So I kind of think of, I have this phrase of like enabling or empowering everyone to be their own entrepreneur. And so, and to me, the creator trader ideal, having that in your mind as an ideal, an ethos of just everyday living, I think can provide a kind of intellectual foundation for getting to a world where more people see themselves as an entrepreneur. And to me, what everyone being an entrepreneur means is, doesn't mean that everyone has to own their own business and be completely responsible for all the risk and responsibility that that entails. I don't think, I don't think that's necessary for us to achieve maximum human freedom, flourishing, and greatness. And B, it's not practically possible, because until at least we can automate every human task, and I don't think we're ever going to get there, because that will just create new tasks to be created. We're going to need people to carry out, so the work of other entrepreneurs. But what it does mean to me is that more people become the self-directed drivers and choosers of their own path. Kind of Joy and I have been talking offline about, we kind of have been using the phrase ladder builders, that we're all building a ladder, to use the corporate terminology or jargon, for our own careers and what they want to look like, our own creative paths. Regardless whether you're doing it on your own and for yourself, a business you have started and owned, whether you're in transition like me, or whether you work for another company, but see a path to being maximizing your creative potential within that path. So, kind of getting more people into the mindset and building up the skills and capabilities um, and just character, if you will, to be able to be uh, in charge of their own destiny, really, and consciously, proactively shaping their own work path and their own creative path. And then, so that's one half of it. And then the other half is just seeing that we all can be more expressive and original in the work that we make. That even if you are a cake baker, that we can create more value by going outside of the lines a little bit, even if just to start, and trying something new, or infusing it with your ideas of what would be the right way to decorate it, or a new flavor or ingredient that you want to try out, or the like, rather than just simply being given what you're told. So encouraging more of that creativity, that originality, initiative, and then also encouraging more people to be their own bosses, if you will, in whatever context they're working in.
I really love this new phrase we've hit on, the concept of the ladder builder. I think it really captures a vision and another ideal of human potential. And we all know the pitfalls of the corporate ladder, that it's a ladder that's been constructed by somebody else. So it doesn't necessarily reflect your own unique potential, values, what it is that you can and want to achieve out of life. There's like the common phrase that you spend your life trying to climb a ladder only to find that it's up against the wrong wall, because it's not the wall that actually expresses your own unique, authentic beliefs and values and vision and purpose and what you would want to see in the world. So I love this concept of encouraging more people to be ladder builders. And I think you're right that I don't think it will ever be the case that everyone can or ought to be an entrepreneur in the full sense. It seems that just amongst the human population that there are just different tolerances for risk, and obviously taking on the responsibility for a lot of risk is a huge part of what entrepreneurship involves, and it's not for everyone. It's not the ideal life for every individual. That said, I do think we can be encouraging more people to take on more responsibility, even if it is ways that aren't necessarily reflected in the market. Although I think we want to see more people doing that as well. But to your point, I think it is just encouraging more people to be independent, to build lives that are on their own terms. And the ways that I think about entrepreneurship or what it means to be entrepreneurial, I think of three categories that come to my mind of what makes something entrepreneurial. I think of it as starting up something new in a way that is mission driven and results oriented. So I have this example that I use totally outside of a business context. You can imagine someone that perhaps takes over the family garden and just follows all of the systems and the plots of land and the growing schedule that had been in place and just repeats that, is not entrepreneurial at all. But if you then take the initiative to carve out your own plot of land and do something different in the family garden, then you are starting up something new and doing it in a way that is mission driven and focused on results. And I would add here, we have a lot of food metaphors. I'm realizing we probably should have brought food to this drinking party
As we
as
were
well,
just talking beforehand about
with
how we
all of the
both
food
have the
metaphors we
munchies.
have going on.
Yeah.
But to tie this back even to the creator trader point, that here I would argue that even specifically with a garden. You can, of course, grow a garden just for yourself. I'm sure there are people who do that, but as someone
My
who, with
father-in-law.
the family, grows a garden, that a garden is best when you even can share the abundance of the garden with your family, your neighbors, your friends. That when you really approach it with the creator trader spirit.
Yeah, I love that. And just thinking about other things that we wanted to say on entrepreneurship.
Well,
Oh,
even connecting to two, so throughout our whole project here on philosophical liberalism, one of our goals here has been to try to apply this concept of creator trader to what we've been building here with philosophical liberalism. And we made the point that we take an entrepreneurial first principles approach in what we've been building here. And I think there's clear connection and resonance with creator trader, but maybe you want to pick that up.
yeah, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure which point it was. You had a point, I know, and I don't know. I don't think you've made it yet when we were talking previously on this topic about how the point about circularity between the creator trader and entrepreneurship. Do you remember precisely what that point was you were making?
Well, I guess just to emphasize here, so we've discussed with philosophical liberalism that there is this sort of entrepreneurial quality of what we're doing, from even just entrepreneurial first principles approach and to building something. So that whole aspect of entrepreneurship is something that we've brought to our whole conception and what we are doing with philosophical liberalism. And I think just pointing out the connection between the entrepreneur and the creator trader, that I think looking at the entrepreneur through the lens of the creator trader, like, this even provides, I think, you could say, the moral justification for the entrepreneurial approach, like why this is such a good, such a value. Like what it is that makes entrepreneurship so great is because entrepreneurs are perhaps the highest expression of being a creator trader. And perhaps the best way to actually be a creator trader is to do this in the full-fledged entrepreneurial way, the way when we think about the really innovative entrepreneurs that are really
Hmm,
changing the course of humanity, that these are our best exemplars perhaps of being a creator trader.
I see. Yes, that's right. And yeah, right. That the greatest creator traders are the entrepreneurs because they are, to use your formulation, creating something original that's mission driven and results oriented, and oftentimes at the kind of most progressive vanguard that moves society forward, as well
Having the
as
most
potentially
impact
widest
on the most
impact.
people, having the most
Yep,
transformation,
right.
really taking humanity to another level.
And then to go back to our earlier point about the spiritual component of this whole ideal, the best entrepreneurs operate on the creator trader principle, that they recognize that, well, one, that they're the best entrepreneurs, I believe, recognize one, that the value they have created is the result of lots of win-win-win relationships and collaborations with other people, um, that they are operating on the win-win, positive sum premise, that they see other human beings as their own sovereign individuals with dignity and equal value to bring to the table, that they must offer something of equal value in exchange to get that, that they're not seeing people as to be used or as a means to their ends, or as someone to be preyed upon and dominated, or to come out the losing side of a zero sum trade. And that is rare because I think even many of the greatest, most transformative entrepreneurs, both of our time and past times, did not necessarily operate under the creator trader principle. And I think
Well,
this is
yeah,
not fully, maybe aspects of their character, I guess you could say, implicitly had to rely on that, yes. But definitely, I think you could say, even for some of the very prominent figures in our current culture, there is still very much a predator prey mentality. And I mean,
and
frankly,
it weakens their stature as
it
entrepreneurs
does.
and
It
what they
well,
could actually be contributing to the world and the amount of flourishing they could achieve in their own lives.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say this for all of you for all of you actual, kind of capital E entrepreneurs out there, I would say, well, really for everybody, but especially for those out there who maybe are unknowingly or unwittingly operating under the predator prey zero sum mentality still, I off we offer you this ideal to help fix that. And so that for your point to what you just said, for the point of helping you reach your fullest entrepreneurial potential and capacity, because I definitely see it's rampant. I came from Wall Street. I read a lot nowadays about Silicon Valley and what's coming out of there. And I would say, and they're kind of two of the highest heights of our economic culture and marketplace today, and certainly two of the greatest value generators. And yeah, the predator prey mentality, I would say, is probably still dominant, including explicitly by some of the leading figures. So, yeah, this I think is another way that we can help reframe all the creators out there, and even for the lowercase e entrepreneurs, like we're saying, we encourage everyone to think of themselves as, again, going into human relations as win-win, offering value for value, positive sum, voluntary exchange, I think is just a great way, not only an ennobling and kind of an ideal path to maximizing your potential, but it is certainly the only way that we get to a free society. And I think that, to tie it back ultimately to this project, that is even the tie to freedom in this creator trader ideal, is that, as we've said, it's built upon uh, voluntary association and mutual respect for each side's rights. Um, and that can only happen in an environment of freedom where those rights are protected. So I think this just reaffirms why, if we want the peace, prosperity, and progress that human life and society is built upon, then we need the foundation of freedom that allows the creator traders within all of us to flourish.
Exactly. Just because we have a market system, unfortunately, too many individuals come to that market system with the ethos of the jungle, the ethos of the predator prey. It's things that we were observing in our own lives and our own interactions with others, that we think we're here in a marketplace, but the other person coming to this interaction is coming with the jungle predator prey mentality and not the creator trader ethos. And I think precisely because it's never been explicitly named or laid out in this way. So hopefully even just the the power of the clarity of having this concept of the creator trader helps you to bring this positive sum approach to life and human relations, to all your relations, to the marketplace, and any kind of human interaction that you pursue.
Yeah, and I think having that clarity, like you said, and shifting that perspective to more of the win-win, that is itself how we build a culture that values free society more, because free society is built on that mutual respect of each individual's sovereignty and equal dignity and rights and worth. So when people see each other in the economic sphere, in the marketplace, as prey to be dominated or exploited, then they're not going to have a whole ton of respect, consciously or unconsciously, for their political rights either. So the two, in my mind, go hand in hand. And this is just another, I guess you could say, example of why we need both political and economic freedom, that you cannot ever sever the two, because the economic or material sphere, our creative work and capacities, our action for our survival, is central to human life.
And to bring it back to a concept that we began exploring last time, this idea of the purpose of freedom. The purpose of freedom is to create. So again, I think this is just another expression of an idea that we've been exploring throughout the series of how freedom is both a means and an end, that you need that certain bedrock of freedom even just to be able to create and exchange with others. But then the purpose of that freedom, how it actually achieves its fullest expression and value, is through precisely the act of creation and trading freely, trading to mutual advantage with others.
I love it.
So why don't we go to the call to action, unless there's anything else you wanted to bring
No,
up for
I
this one?
think that was a great period to end on for this one. I guess I'll you want me
Yeah,
to
go
go
ahead.
through it? Yeah. So we
I'm going to
thought,
be drinking more of my San Pellegrino.
yeah, exactly. It's actually great. I timed it well without even planning it that my glass is empty. So, um, in the spirit of encouraging everyone to be their own entrepreneur in their own ways and more creativity, we thought we would call each of you out there to think about both aspects in your own life. One on the creative side to just get your creative juices flowing and think through an area in your life. Maybe it's your main day job and professional work, or maybe it's a hobby or a passion, or either active or dormant in your life that you've wanted to pursue, where you can be explicitly creative and just creating a value, expressing yourself, you know and do that. And then two, bring the entrepreneurial angle to that even, and start to think about how you might do it in your own unique, original way, and then how you might even be able to exchange it with others in any form. Again, not doesn't have to be materialistic or monetary form of exchange, but even if it's just bringing a value to your spouse in how you're going to show up in a certain way, and bring something new to your relationship or your kids or your community, or your job, and those you work with, whatever the domain is you pick. But we invite everyone to go on that exploration and get those creative juices going, and even push yourself a little bit beyond just kind of doing what everyone else is doing, and see how you might put your own unique flair and spin on it.
Precisely. As someone who comes from a background in the arts, I know that many people who are not in the arts often will say of themselves that they are not creative. But I always want to dispel that myth from everyone, because I think all human beings, this is part of our human nature, is that we have this ability to be creative, to bring something original to the table. It doesn't have to be something that is creative in the traditional artistic sense. And so just encouraging everyone out there to really think about originality as a capacity that you possess, and how you can be doing something that is more original, more authentically you, putting your own spin on something, taking something that you've learned and really making it your own. And then, as Chris pointed out, to do it in a way that you can share that value with others, whether it is through perhaps bringing it to a marketplace and maybe getting some kind of a monetary exchange, but perhaps not at all. Perhaps it is just something that you're doing, within the
Out of
community
love,
organization,
or yeah.
something you're bringing to the PTA or the neighborhood block party, or to your family and friends and such.
And you know what? You just raised a great point. I guess that was not a period, it was a coda on that last sentence, because this is a key point that when, even when we use the term creative, I think it's been kind of implied in everything we've said, but creativity to us is all acts of human value creation. It's not just the kind of uh, common understanding of the visual and performing arts, or the kind of explicitly expressive forms of creation. It is every act of value that we create by taking nature and shaping it. So, it really encompasses everything. And that's part of the creator trader ethos as well that we want to promote, is seeing all of those acts as acts of creativity, and therefore liberating in your own mind the potential you have to bring your unique voice and effort to that.
And we're excited to see all the unique ways that you're
Yes,
gonna
please
bring
do
the
share it with
originality.
us.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how we get the community going, and that's how we start spurring and inspiring each other for new ideas and potentially even collabs and ways we can help each other achieve those visions.
And that is the creator trader system when we were all creating things and then being able to exchange it with others.
I love it. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have some good things to talk about in 2 weeks. Thank you all as always. And again, we always promote it, but can't ever say it enough. Please share with those who you think would benefit from this. Help us grow this community and movement. And definitely please subscribe if you haven't already. Just hit that button. It's in the Substack. It's everywhere, every link. The Philosophical Liberal on Substack. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you next time. Cheers.
Cheers. Sláinte. I guess I did have a little bit left.